every night that I had been out like late or whatever, I texted this guy and told him, don't wait up for me, I'm just out or whatever. And that's because all day when I was at work, he would be texting me, ask me, what time are you done at? What time are you gonna be back at? Where do you want to go for dinner? And I was like really not interested. So I just told him like, no, I'm out, whatever. So one night I tell him, don't wait up for me, I'm out. And he goes, who are you with? Are you with people from the company? And I'm like, that's none of your business. I don't owe you anything, whatever. So the company had a shuttle bus that brought you to and from the hotel and work. And the next day I finished work and I was on the shuttle bus, and there were a few other people, but I didn't really know anybody. So the other thing was that the company had people at, I think, 3 different hotels. So the bus stopped at one hotel and everybody got off except for one other guy and me. So this other guy comes and talks to me and he goes, hey, what's your name? And I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Before we start talking about this, are you my roommate? Because I had only met my roommate very briefly for like 5 seconds, and I thought this guy kind of looked like my roommate. I don't know. I didn't know his name or anything. I just thought this guy looked like the roommate. So he goes, no, I don't think so. And I'm like, are you sure? Because I think you look like my roommate. And he goes, no, what's your room? And I tell him 506. And he goes, hey, that's my room. And I'm like, oh, so you must be my roommate. That was kind of exciting. I thought this was a perfect opportunity because I didn't want to go straight back to the hotel. I didn't want to spend time back at the hotel. So I asked him if he wanted to go get something to eat. And we did. And then after that, he wanted to like explore the city a little bit. And keep in mind, this is murder capital of Canada. And we were like in a park and there was some like shady ass people. A pregnant woman asked him to borrow a lighter and lit up a cigarette. Like all these just not pretty situations that you want to be in. A bunch of sketchy stuff kind of, but it was all good. We made it back safe and sound. We got back to the hotel finally. I told him my situation and he felt really bad for me, and he told me that he wasn't going to be staying at our hotel that evening, and if I wanted I could stay in his room. And I was like, oh yes, thank God, like this sounds amazing. He went up to the room to shower and to kind of check if the coast was clear for me, and I waited in the lobby in the meantime. And I started talking to the front desk guy and I kind of befriended him a little bit. And he was really nice, and I told him my situation too, and he told me like he felt really bad but there's nothing he could do for me, and whatever, I understood that. So finally my roommate came back down, told me the coast was clear, like the other guy had gone to bed and it was all good, I could go up. So I went up and I ended up sleeping in the same apartment in the room next to him, and he never had a clue, which I thought was brilliant. It was great. The next day I go to work. I didn't hear anything from the chef, which was unusual because, like I mentioned, usually he was like obsessing over me and asking me all these questions, and today he wasn't. And this day happened to be the premiere of the show, so I ended up staying at work a lot later, and I only got back to the hotel at like 1 a.m. So my phone was dead by this time, and when I walked in I said hi to the front desk guy and he kind of looked at me funny. And I was like, maybe he doesn't recognize me. He must see a lot of faces. I don't know. So I went a little bit closer and I said like, hey, how are you? And he was like, are you in room 506? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, a gentleman came down from your room and requested that your key card be deactivated. What? What do you mean? So he explains to me that this guy's name is on the hotel room and mine is not, and for that reason he has the right to deactivate my key card. Now, I don't really understand how my name was not anywhere on paper. Like I never had to check in or anything, which was all kind of weird because like I was legitimately with the company, but I don't know. This was just like problematic because obviously that gave me no security, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do now? You know, I don't know. So I'm kind of freaking out and I don't really know what to do because my phone is dead. Not that I know anyone anyway. I can't, like all my stuff is in the room I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So my face just kind of drops and I'm like, and this guy feels so bad for me, and he tells me that if you want, you can use the house phone and call up to the room. Like, I'm so mad at this guy, I really don't want to talk to him. He goes, if you want, I could lend you the phone and you could call somebody. And I'm like, I don't have anybody to call even if I wanted to, because of course I don't know anybody in the city and nobody could really help me from a distance, you know? So I just kind of sat there in the lobby for like an hour crying because I did not know what to do and I was just a mess. So finally, after like an hour, I collected myself. I'm like cool as a cucumber. I'm like, okay, I got this. And so I finally used the phone to call up to the room. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'll get lucky and the roommate will answer. But I call up and somebody says hello. I can't tell who it is. And I start asking, because the roommate was French, so I start asking him in French if it was him, and the person is not understanding. So I quickly realized that it was the chef and not who I wanted it to be. And I tell him, oh, hi, I'm in the lobby right now and I can't get into the room because my key was deactivated. Would you know anything about that? And he goes, I was sleeping. Are you here? Do you need to get in? Yeah, no kidding, I have to get in. All my stuff is in the room. I don't know what he was thinking I was gonna do. But anyway, he goes, okay, I'll let you in. And I'm like, thank friggin' God. So I'm standing there waiting for him to come down and get me, because at this hotel you can't even go up the elevator without the key card. You need your key card to use the elevator. So I'm standing there waiting. Nothing. So the guy at the front desk tells me that he thinks that this guy is waiting for me to go up because he can see on the security camera that he's just standing by the door. And I'm like, I can't even go up. Like, I don't have a key card. So this guy feels so bad for me, and he asked somebody from security to escort me up the elevator. Like, that's so embarrassing, but the guy did it. Thank goodness. He was nice enough to. And I got up to the room and I'm like, what the duck is wrong with you? Like, what made you think this was a good idea? And he goes, I didn't know if you were coming back to the room tonight. And I'm like, so you deactivate my key card so I can never come back to the room? Like, where's that logic, you know? He goes, I was worried about you. You were worried about me, so you locked me out of the hotel room so that I have nowhere to go. And then finally he says, I heard you were sleeping in coffee shops. And I'm like, I don't understand. You hear I'm sleeping in coffee shops. This worries you. So you deactivate my key card so I might not have a choice but to sleep in coffee shops now. Like, I don't know where your thoughts are at. I don't know where your head's at. But whatever. So I fell asleep on the couch after that. I was so mad at this guy. In the morning he comes and wakes me up and he goes, do you need a key card? And I'm like, yeah, that would be nice. I would love to be able to access the room. But that's just me. I don't know. What am I thinking? So he gives me a key card and he goes, don't lose it because it's an extra $5 charge, whatever. And I'm like, hey, whatever. Like, go away. So he leaves, goes to work, and by this time I'm starting to think maybe I want to go home a little bit sooner because this is just madness. Like, this is not okay. So that day I call my parents and I'm like so mad at what happened the other night. I'm like yelling at my parents practically because I'm so heated. So my dad goes, you know what? Let me call this guy. So my dad gives him a call and he goes like, you know, stop messing around. She already told you she's gonna leave by the end of the month. Like, if this continues, I'm gonna come to Winnipeg and we'll talk. And I'm like, thanks, Dad. So after that, I happened to see this guy at work that day and he goes, your dad called me today. And I'm like, oh, did he? And he goes, what did you tell them? What did I tell them? I told them exactly what happened. I don't know what you wanted me to tell them, but I told them the truth. Like, I don't know what you were thinking. And he goes, well, you wouldn't talk to me. How old are you? I wouldn't talk to you? I don't need to talk to you. I don't owe you anything. I have no reason to talk to you. I don't want anything to do with you. You know? I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. That's just me. So then I had spoken to my boyfriend that day and I kind of let him know everything that was going on. I was so mad, and my brilliant boyfriend goes, "You should come home like now." I hadn't really thought of this. So the whole reason I wanted to stay was to make enough money for it to be worth me having gone out there. But then I kind of figured that all these bad vibes, all this negativity, all this like anxiety about sleeping arrangements and where I'm gonna go and what I'm gonna do at night in murder capital of Canada kind of made me realize that it's not worth the money. That being said, I called my aunt, who was going to be responsible for booking my flight, and I said, "Hi, did you book my flight yet?" And she goes, "No, not yet, but I think I'll do it tonight when I get home." And I go, "Okay, this is good. I think I want to come home a little bit sooner." And she goes, "How soon?" And I'm like, tomorrow." And she goes, "Okay, I'll see what I can do. I'll book you on the first flight, whatever." So my aunt called me back and she let me know that she booked my flight not for tomorrow, but first thing the next morning. So all I had to do was go to work and survive the night, and then off I go. I go to work that day. I told one of the local staff that I had befriended that I was leaving the next morning, and he was like, "Oh, bummer." So he asked me if I wanted to go out that night, and I said yes, this would be like perfect because again, I just don't even want to go back to the hotel, even if it is just for one more night. So we go out and he offers to drive me to the airport in the morning because I think I had to be there for like 5 or something. I tell him, "Yes, thank you, that would be great, but I need to go back to the hotel and get my things." And he goes, "Okay, no problem." He brings me there and he asked me if I want him to come up and help me to gather my things. And I tell him, "No, I think it's better if I just go on my own because I hadn't really told anybody I was leaving. I just wanted to grab my things in the night, be quiet, and sneak away." So that's exactly what I did. And by the time I come back downstairs, this guy has like a random woman in his car and he's like, "Hey, meet whatever her name is." So this is kind of just like a fun side story. This woman had gotten into an argument with the father of her child, as she kept referring to him, and I was like, okay, I understand maybe you got in an argument, you don't want to be right there with him, but do you always get into strangers' cars? Like, I don't know, that was kind of weird to me. I don't know. So we drove around a little while and finally this woman decided that she wanted to go back, whatever. So he dropped her off and took me to the airport, and a delayed flight and a broken plane later, and I made it home safe and sound, and here I am in one piece.